Right, let's talk about 30 series graphics card, or in general, the new generation of graphics card, AMD and both NVIDIA, right? Let's roll the intro.
Be strong.
Okay, so you're looking to get a 30 series and you're not sure if you should get it or not, and you're trying to find out more, right? So here I'll give you a couple of things that you should consider before you buy or before you even decide to start looking at graphics card. First of all is, do you really need the upgrade, right? If you're running, it all depends on like what games you're running and what hardware you've got at the moment. These two sort of go hand in hand, not link and link anyways. So if you're one of those players that plays CSGO, League of Legends, Rocket League, games where you require super high FPS, but you already have a decent enough graphics card, so if you have like anything from a 2060 upwards, I would say you probably don't need the upgrade, right? If you only stick to these couple of games where the FPS by itself already is like minimum of 150 and upwards, I would say you definitely do not need the 30 series graphics card, any of them. You could stick with your current hardware. What I would recommend you probably doing is getting probably a better CPU or a better RAM kit. But yeah, if that's the case, if that's you, well then that's it. Video done. You can click off. You don't need an upgrade. On the other hand, if you're more of a sort of single player gamer, right? You like to enjoy games such as The Witcher, for example, I got behind there, Fallout 4, Skyrim, Cyberpunk, the one that's out. Games like these where graphics are incredibly demanding and they put a heavy toll on your GPU, and I would say yes, definitely do upgrade, because the single player games such as Cyberpunk that are coming out or are already out these days are incredibly demanding, and the 20 series are just not cutting it. Never mind the 10 series, but the 20 series just aren't cutting it, especially in the ray tracing area. 20 series just aren't enough to run what the graphics are demanding. So for example, at the moment I'm playing Cyberpunk on a 3080. Now the only problem I've got there is that, okay, I'm saying a problem, this is like a first world problem, but I'm running the graphics on high/ultra with ray tracing on at medium or high, I think. But the problem is I'm running it at 40 frames per second in the city, and this is with a 3080, which is one of the highest end graphics card you could get in the market right now, other than the 3090 and the high-end AMD one, which I don't really know about the AMD line now. I need to read about that a little bit more. But if you're in that boat where you want to play single player titles, AAA single player titles where graphics are like a big thing, I would definitely recommend getting the new graphics card and swapping over. Now, if you are going to swap over, here are a couple of things that you should probably start thinking about before you actually buy the graphics card. Now, first of all is obviously financial situation. 30 series graphics cards, especially the high-end ones, so the 3080, 3090, even the 3070, are pretty expensive. Yes, the performance you get for the price you're paying is absolutely amazing compared to previous generations. However, it's still a steep price to pay. For the 3080, you're looking at, if you're in the UK, for example, which is where I'm from, 3080, you're looking around 650 to 750 pounds, right? That's a lot of money. 3090, you're looking at upwards of 900 pounds probably. The 3070, which is their mid end, I think you're looking at around 600 pounds, 600 to 700 pounds. All right, these are all super expensive cards, and first you got to think about, are you willing to spend the money? Obviously, you probably thought about this. That's why you're clicking on the video, right? Second consideration is, will your PC be able to handle the graphics card? What I mean by this is, do you have a power supply that's powerful enough to supply the power? Because the minimum requirement on all these graphics cards without overclocking them is 750 watts. So do you have a 750 watts to be able to handle the 3080? If you're running the 3090, I would recommend 850 watts upwards. Do you have the power supply, powerful enough to run it? If you're going to even overclock, thinking about overclocking the 3080, I would say jump up to 850 minimum, 850 watts. 80 plus, I would say 80 plus silver at least. You could get away with 80 plus bronze, but that would be very dangerous, and you would be risking cutting the power to your PC from time to time when you run at very, very high intensities, or high clock speeds or whatever. So that's one thing to consider about your PC, is do you have enough good enough power supply? Second of all is your RAM or CPU going to bottleneck that your GPU, right? So if you're playing Flight Simulator, which I know is very, very demanding, if you're running it on a Ryzen 3 CPU with 16 gigs of RAM, I would say maybe upgrade the CPU. So instead of jumping straight to 3080 but running it on a Ryzen 3, you could jump to 3070 and upgrade your CPU to Ryzen 5, potentially. Right, you won't get like the amazing graphics that you would get out of 3080, but if you did run the Flight Simulator with 3080 and a Ryzen 3, your CPU will be bottlenecking the entire sort of experience, because your CPU just wouldn't be enough to handle it. As well as your RAM, 16 gigs, I think is below even the minimum. The minimum recommended for Flight Simulator at the moment is 32 gigs of RAM. So you got all those things to consider, and honestly, that by itself is already a big purchase, right? Going from a Ryzen 3 to Ryzen 5 is a big purchase. Going from 16 gigs of RAM to 32 is another big purchase. And on top of that, if you even have to upgrade your power supply, well, that's basically your entire PC gone, right? You'll have to replace almost everything apart from the motherboard and storage. Everything else you would have to replace, and obviously the case. Now, this moves me on to the case. Is your case big enough to handle the 3080? If you go on NVIDIA's website, or if you go on the board partner's website, so Asus, Gigabyte, whatever, on there it will tell you the dimensions of the graphics card itself, right? So you first of all you need to make sure you've got enough space in your case to be able to fit the desired graphics card that you're looking at. So 3080, 3070, 3090, doesn't matter. Do you have enough space? Now, with that comes another thing. Does your power supply have the required cable? So in this case would be 2 8-pins. Most power supplies I know come with it. If you have a fully modular one, then you probably don't have to worry about it, because even if you don't, you could just buy the cable separately. But do you have the required cables for it? So I think all these things you have to take in consideration before you even start looking at a graphics card, just because it's a lot of things to consider because it's such a expensive product in general, right? Okay, let's move on. Right, so now you decided, yes, I have everything I said before, and yes, I do play demanding games, so I will need to buy the graphics card. Now what? So if you do buy the graphics card, one thing you gotta keep in mind is demand is still quite high for these graphics cards. It's insanely high. There's a lot of people stuck at home these days. People are starting to game more and more, so people are starting to look at better performance PCs. So everyone's looking to get their hands on one of these GPUs. On top of that, supply is still low. It's not as low as when it launched. So products are still available. There's more stock than before. However, it's still not enough to supply the high demand that there is currently in the market. So if you are to get one of these GPUs, I would say the minimum amount of wait time would be at least a month before you get your hands on it, depending on where you live. So me, for example, I live in the UK, and I bought a 3080 at the start of September 2020. However, I did not receive that GPU until mid stages of December. Actually, I got it the week just before Christmas, so I was lucky to be able to get it before the holidays. Because if not, I would be looking at getting it this year in 2021. So I was lucky enough to be in the list. I was early enough on the list to be able to get it before the end of the year. However, if you are to buy one now, I would say you would be looking at a minimum of a 1 month delay in between your purchase and you receiving the product in hand. Having said all that, is the wait worth it? Absolutely. So I went from running on a 1660 on a GTX 1660 graphics card to a 3080, and I'm telling you, the performance increase is through the roof. If you're like in one of those situations where you're either on a 1660 Ti or a 1050 even, or a 2060, and you're going from that to a 3080, the performance increase is absolutely amazing. So at the moment I'm playing Warzone on high graphic settings, and I'm getting upwards of 70 FPS no matter where I go. So the performance increase is definitely worth it. If you're a heavy gamer, absolutely recommend it. You could also use it to render and edit video editing if you're into that as well. It helps massively. So overall, I would say it's a yes for me. If you are considering of buying a graphics card, if you have the financial sort of support to be able to buy this, for me it's definitely yes, go for it. However, before you actually buy the graphics cards, take all these things I have said and keep them in mind. Double check before you actually buy the graphics card, because you don't want to be buying a graphics card for 700 to 800 pounds, for example, let's say, as an example. And then when it arrives, you're not able to use it because either your case isn't big enough, or your CPU's bottlenecking it, or your power supply isn't powerful enough. So make sure to check all those, and if you're not sure, drop me down a comment, and I'll try and help you guys out. You can hop on my Twitch when I'm streaming, and I'll help you guys out. But I hope this all has helped you make a decision on whether or not you should buy one or not. If there's anything I missed out, just let me know down in the comments. I'll make sure to reply it. But yeah, I really hope this video was helpful, and once again, really appreciate you guys clicking on this video and checking out my content as a starting YouTuber. Anyways, won't hold you back enough. Happy buying.